Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. I'm joined by a mischievous-looking Steve Jones, by Micheál Deasy, and Charlie Poste, who has a house, not just a car. Welcome along, everyone. Good to see you. We're swapping the Guinness for the Guineas for this podcast, even though Punchestown is later on. You can still find our insights post on Punchestown up there. There'll of course be an insights post for the Guineas preview we're about to do. That'll be up a little bit later on today, so make sure you check that out. Before we get stuck into the preview, just a reminder that if you are watching on YouTube, do give us a thumbs up. And you can subscribe for free, which makes it easier for you to watch all of our content. If you're listening on the podcast, give us a 5-star review and a follow on whatever your preferred podcast app is, be it Apple or Spotify. And finally, a reminder that the timestamps for each race and each day, 2 days we're covering here, will be in the description, however you are watching or listening to us. There we are. Right, no need for any formalities. I'm sure everyone's well. Let's get stuck into the previews. So we're going to kick off with the big one. The Kipco 2000 Guineas, where Native Trail is 2.22. That's an industry best price as well, if you fancy him. Caribus is 7.2. Luxembourg is 7.4. The first of the Aidan O'Brien horses in the Irish. Perfect Power, well, he stays 15.5, as is Point Lonsdale. And then we get into the bigger prices. Right, Dees, you kick off. I agree with one of yours. So, DC, first of all, you are going very much Team Ireland.
Yeah, I'm staying patriotic. So the first one, I think, Luxembourg, for obvious reasons. Look, the best trial for 2000 Guineas the last few years has been the Racing Post Trophy or the Vertum Futurity, whatever it is. And Luxembourg won that last year. I watched it again last night, and like he was just, he only got 2 cracks at the whip in the last 100 yards just to keep him going. He won it almost on hands and heels. I know that they think a lot of that Dunica thinks a lot of that Sissoko that finished second. He beat Bayside Boy as well fairly easily. Look, Aidan O'Brien, like, you're never going to go broke back in Aidan O'Brien horses in the Guineas. He's unbelievable. And while I have great respect for Native Trail and Caribus, I just think that like Aidan O'Brien just knows how to prep a horse for the Guineas. This horse has won the best trial for the last few years. 7.7 is almost a win place bet if you want to just have a small bet and do have half your stakes in the win, half your stakes on the place. I think he's a top class horse. It doesn't bother me that they say that like he's probably going to be better over further. I think he can easily win this and progress on for the year. I think he's really, really good, top class. And the other one then is Aidan O'Brien as well as Point Lonsdale. He was beaten by Native Trail at the kind of towards the end of the season there at the Curragh. But that was his 5th race of the season. He was unbeaten coming into that. Might have been a bit over the top at that stage. Look, he's a really good horse as well. He was very impressive in his 4 wins before that. Like, he was winning by 4.5 lengths and 5 lengths, and at sharp prices. He beat Reach for the Moon there last year at Ascot as well, who was fairly well touted. Frankie's on him, and he's got a nice draw. He's drawn 11. I think the high numbers might be a better place to be. And again, he's a nice price as well. He's what is it, 15.5 there, so you could have a win place betting him as well. Native Trail really makes the market here, being such a sharp price. You're getting a lot of juice in the price of the other horses. So I'm going to stick with Aidan O'Brien and with Luxembourg and Point Lonsdale.
Looking for his 18th British Guineas, Aidan O'Brien. I think, of course, 1,000 and 2,000. I think I definitely agree with Point Lonsdale as a bet. Luxembourg's obviously hugely talented. Just wonder if he does want further. Point Lonsdale might as well, but I think he's a good win play shout with Frankie on board. The Native Trail angle for me, and I know, Charlie, you fancy Native Trail, but equally you might not be backing him at 2.2. You think he's the most likely winner. I think he might just trade a bit bigger in the run. So I think if you want to back him, if you want to get a bigger price and you're not worried about that spot he hits almost going into the dip where he'll probably be asked for a bit of an effort, I'm pretty sure he'll trade a little bit bigger than he goes off anyway, Charlie.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, Tom. I mean, for me, there keeps being this question mark about whether he truly handles the track. And I personally don't really see that. I don't think he did anything wrong in the Craven. I think the fact that he's had this prep run and got that under his belt is a massive plus. And it's a cracking renewal first and foremost with Caribus and Luxembourg and Point Lonsdale, as Mike Deasy's already alluded to. But for me, I just think Native Trail is a class act. It's not a betting race for me personally. I just want to see him win. As a sports fan, I just think he looks like a superstar, and everything he's done, he just looks like a monster of a horse, Tom. And I can't wait for tomorrow. And I really hope he lights up the Rolling Mile, if I'm honest. And I'd rather not be looking for value to take him on, because I just genuinely want him to win and win impressively. So it's maybe a bit of a heart rule in the head situation here for me, but I just didn't want to search for anything else, because I genuinely believe he's the real deal, and therefore I want to see him go and do that.
Yeah, he makes the market as well. 2.2 him currently. You're looking elsewhere, Steve.
Yeah, I am. I do think Native Trail is by far the most likely winner, but then I think there's reasons to take on a lot of the rest of them. The trip doesn't worry me too much for Luxembourg. It's the ground. I don't think he wants fast ground. I don't think he enjoyed it when he won. He held his head real funny when he won on faster ground. And if it is quick, in the Guineas, which, let's face it, it's 3:40 in the afternoon, and the ground can, no matter how much water they put on, it can dry out rapidly at Newmarket. So the horse I do fancy is Edon, something like that. Massively impressed with him. He only made his debut in December on the all-weather at Newcastle, got beat, was very unlucky. And that was quite a good maiden. And then he went back to Newcastle and he got beat again when they rode him wrong. So it was interesting that Roger Varian stuck him in the Fielden Stakes listed race when he could have easily gone for a maiden and picked one up easily. But he didn't. And that's not like Roger Varian, in my opinion. He's not one for doing that. But he stuck Adon in, and I thought this was hugely impressive. It's a mile in one race, and he is bred to get a bit further, but he showed incredible pace to come from off a real steady gallop. And the turn of foot he showed, I don't think he's got any problem dropping back to a mile. He's quite a big horse, which is presumably why he didn't see the track as a 2-year-old until December. So you'd think that he would take a fair step forward for that. And the Fielden Stakes is a race. It doesn't have much of a pedigree for having an influence on the Guineas, because most of them go to the Dante and then go over further, like Golden Horn. But this horse has got pace, and the form stacks up because he blew Massacala away. Massacala was only beaten a short head by Native Trail in the Superlative Stakes last summer, and then went on to beat Bayside Boy at Newbury. So the form really stacks up. This horse is what, 26.0?
I'll get an updated price from our producer for this horse, but a general 26.0, I think, yeah.
No brainer for me. Massive price, massive player. I think this horse could be really good. I think it's no bad thing that he'll stay a bit further, and he's obviously stayed 9 furlongs, but he's got the pace for a mile. So yeah, I think he's a great bet personally.
There it is, 26.0 for Aiden, for David Egan and Roger Varian, 26.0 matchbook. Right, that is our look at the Guineas. We are going to go back in time. I've got 8 races in total to do, so we're going to go back to the opening race of the ITV races at Newmarket on Saturday. And a good-looking race. It looks like this at the top. It's nice and open. Tarhib is 8.6, Adsjad 9.2, 9.8 for Black Rod, First Folio 10.0, as is Strike Red, Jumbie 10.5, 12 Ratea, 12.5 for Tactical, 13.5 Summergand, and I'll leave it there. Goodness me, this is nice and open, and we have got lots of horses going up between us. Straight back at you, Jonesy. You've got a win and place shout.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, Apollo 1. And if you see Black Rod's there, second or third favourite?
Yeah.
Well, Apollo 1 was last. It was on the July course at Newmarket, but they have similar-ish undulations. Not exactly the same because we're on the Rolling Mile. But Apollo 1 was only beaten a neck, trying to give Black Rod best part of a stone, £13, I think, in what is usually a really hot 3-year-old sprint handicap at the July meeting last year. And Apollo 1 ran really well to finish second there. Next time, he'd been on the go quite a long time, and I think he was due a break the next time, and he wasn't seen again until on the all-weather in January, when he ran all right. And last time he was tried in a listed race at Lingfield when he got caught quite wide and nothing went right. So I put a line through that. But he's had a few months off, and that's key with Apollo 1, because he's got a very good record fresh. And if Black Rod's got a chance, considering the weights favour Apollo 1 on that July course run last year massively, I don't understand why. I think he was 23.0 there. I think he'd be a bit bigger than that. So winning place for a stable that I quite like, especially at Newmarket. They've got a good record at Newmarket. I can't say his name, but he's a trainer I like. I think it's Charalambos, is it? Something like that, Peter Charalambos. And he's joined forces with another guy who's hard to say, Clutterbuck. So it's not good if you haven't got much space in the newspaper to write Peter Charalambos and Clutterbuck. James Clutter. I can't even say it.
No, you can't.
Apollo 1's easier to say.
Yeah.
Especially
really
when you're hungover.
Hey?
Luckily, I'm not hungover, so it's easy to say.
Yeah, none of us are. Charlie, who do you fancy?
Yeah, I'm definitely not hungover. Not today anyway. So I've gone for one from my old boss, Richard Fahey. Stripe Red, I thought was massively eye-catching last time over this course and distance. He denied a clear run, first run back, just sort of like, looked like, I don't know, it just looked like it didn't really happen for him at all, and he kind of was beaten not very far. And my only slight concern, Tom, just looking through the race, was there's not masses of pace around him, and maybe he wants a real good gallop to ensure a clear run at this. But it's again second run back from a break, which I always like with Richard's horses, and just like he was coming to the boil. And like I say, the last run at Newmarket, to me, I watched it back time and again, and I really think if he'd have got a clear shot at this, he'd have won his last start. And I think his mark is left unchanged, back to the same course and distance. Richard's horses often come forward from the run, especially these sprinters. And yeah, I was pretty sweet on Stripe Red in this race.
DC, you were nodding away there.
I was too. I thought I'd found a real sneaky one there, but Stripe Red. What Charlie didn't say there as well is that he was drawn stall 1 the last day and reared coming out of the stalls and lost a few lengths, and then he had to go all the way across the track to the other side where they were running. So he gave up numerous lengths there. He like he said, he denied a clear run, and he finished a length and a half behind Gale Force Maya. I think he's a cracking bet in this. Really good, and there's been a bit of money for him as well, so that's always a plus. The other one I like in this, I just into the group there yesterday, was Tactical, Andrew Balling's horse. Now he'd a very good 2-year-old campaign as a sprinter. He's kind of stuck to 5 and 6 furlongs. They put him up in trip last year. He run 1 over 6 behind Creative Force at Newbury, but the rest of the year he spent over 7 furlongs and a mile. Now he's had wind surgery over the winter break. He's back here now. Ryan Moore takes over from Oisin Murphy, which isn't a bad jockey change. And he, like, group horses and handicap, like he is a group horse running a handicap. He's top weight obviously, but he has course form, he has distance form. I think there's a lot going for him, and he was a big price at Dex. He was 21.0 at Dex. He's in there now with about is it 10.5, I think, is it 12.5? Yeah, I'll be having a win bet and a place bet in him. I think he's going to run very well. And Andrew Balling as well is having a good few days. He was 3 from 5 yesterday, or 3 wins from his last 5 runners yesterday. I didn't check how he got yesterday, but his horses are on form.
Yeah, he seems to always start the season well, Andrew. Yeah. And he finished. I mean, he had a great season last year. The two I like are at half decent prices. One of them is Jumbie, who's pretty obvious. Maybe the horse is best over 7, I don't know. But a big field handicap is what he wants. He definitely likes the track. He'll be tucked away. I like the draw for him right in the middle because he just wants cover and to be produced late. He's not a horse I'd want to back at a very short price, but I think he's about 10.5, and I thought that was fair enough. And the other one is a bit of a guess with Final Song as to where she is. She won the Group 3 sprint out of Meydan before finishing second in a Group 1 out there. And I thought, well, this is it. She's a sprinter. Of course, you know, she'd been running over further, but she's a much better sprinter. And then last season didn't really work out. Couple of runs on ground, probably softer than ideal. I think she wants a sound surface. She just dropping into a handicap of 100, she could be well treated. So I thought she was worth having a bit of money on at a half decent price, definitely in the 20s. Win and Play small, Final Song. Jumby, the most likely one there, I think. We'll move on to the next. Nice big fields we've got on Saturday, by and large. This is the 225, where Fast Medicine is 4.0, Dahabi is 5.2, Moving Time is 6.6, Notre Belle Bet 8.6, 9.0 for Turntable 9.4, Forest Falcon 13.0, and Bigger the Rest. I will just start off with Forest Falcon because everyone else is in agreement on another horse. Forest Falcon is really it's a bit of a guess because I thought this race was tough, but I do think he's the most likely leader, and I think he'll definitely trade shorter in the run. So that was the angle. I'm doing it with a horse tomorrow as well, but most likely a horse to go forward. You know, the trip is right and the ground's probably right, and maybe the horse will win, but I'd possibly be looking to get out in the run, but I'm convinced he'll trade shorter, a good bit shorter as well. Right, Moving Time. Charlie, you can kick us off.
Yeah, again, I just went down through this race. I thought Fast Medicine, much as impressive at Nottingham, I thought he looked a bit awkward up the straight, and I wondered whether this track would suit him ideally. I just thought he carried his head a bit ungainly under pressure. Peter Chappell-Hyam's horse. Dahabi, again, you sort of guess him. I mean, Appleby is flying the long layoff to come back from, and Moving Time. When I went back through his solid form from last year, he's been gelded as well over the winter, and he had solid group form last year. And he has the assistance of Harry Davis, who I think is taking 7 off, and like he looks a really, really talented young man, you know. And I think this is the first time that Roger Varian has used him. I mean, he's only been riding this season, but I think it's the first time Roger Varian has flagged up and taken advantage of the £7. And group horse in the handicap, Harry Davis taking the claim off by reducing the weight down to 9 stone 3, and with question marks for me personally over the first 2 in the market. I quite like Moving Time in this, and add into that Notre Belle Bet. He's got to prove that can he do the same? Can he reproduce his form on turf? All his best form is on the all weather. So I thought that the top of the market dominated this race, and for me, the one with least questions to answer was Moving Time. And like I say, I really like the booking of Harry Davis for this horse.
DC, Moving Time.
Yeah, Charlie's made the case already. Like he probably is the class horse in the race. You can't say he's probably very well handicapped. He went up a lot there last year for, you know, for finishing 4th and 5th in good races. Like, so that hasn't helped him. But at the same time, he should be a lot better than most of these. He should be able to give the weight away. And Harry Davis has taken 7 off. And again, he's a nice price as well. I'd be going win only for him on this, but I could see him going off shorter.
Okay, Steve, you're very much in agreement.
Yeah, with everything. Yeah, like Charlie said, Harry Davis is that's stealing £7. So that's a big plus. And the fact he's been gelded and he looked very good. He's already handled Newmarket. He won. He beat the Queen's Vase winner Kamari in a maiden last spring, and it did at Royal Ascot in the Hampton Court. He couldn't get in from wide and he was bumped a bit. So I wouldn't say that was. I wouldn't hold that against him. And then next start, his most recent one, I thought it was all right performance behind Real World, but he got to the front too soon, and it was a funny old race. So I think he's definitely, like Charlie says, a group horse in a handicap with a £7 claimer, or the best £7 claimer taking that off. It's just a no-brainer for me. I think he's a great bet.
All right, let's move on to the Palace House. Who's the picture over your head, Steve? Who is that? Is that Fred Archer? You're on mute, don't worry. But I've seen you mouthing Fred Archer, so that's fine. It's just been bugging me as to who
It's
it is.
Fred Archer. I was going to say it's Tony McCoy, but that's failed now. That joke.
Yeah.
This picture, my uncle bought it at an auction and gave it to me, and it was it hung in the pub in Prestbury, just near Cheltenham Racecourse, where Fred Archer was born.
Lovely.
Or grew up, I think, something like that.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for the detail there. It reminds
Do
me.
you want another story? I can give you.
We haven't got time.
I know Dan doesn't want to get to Punchestown. I know this. Our producer Dan knows.
Just tell the story quickly. I'll just tell the story quickly of when Tomo was calling the Fred Archer Stakes. He went, "Fred Archer, great jockey, blew his brains out, and they're off." Absolutely. Right. Anyway, we move on. Sorry, Dan.
Did he blow his brains out in Punchestown last night?
Look how quickly he got that betting up. Twilight Calls is 3.9. He's rattling through it. Tis Marvellous is 5.4. Came from the Dark 5.8. 10.0 Hurricane Ivor, Arecibo 12.5, and Bigger the Rest. Steve, I nearly went with the outsider here, and I haven't because I'm not brave enough. But this could be a good shout.
Thank God you didn't. Oh God, I'd have been devastated. When the dealing's done, who is the outside of the now? He is. What worries me is because, as Dees knows, official ratings mean an awful lot in group races. No, they don't. I was only joking there. The producers put Kenny Rogers. He's only about 11, our producer, and he's listened to Kenny Rogers, and I'm impressed with that because When the Dealing's Done is obviously the gambler of his song. And it's owned by a guy called Austin Whelan, who's a tremendous guy who's got pubs around all over the place. Irish fella. Anyway, when the dealing's done, was held back last year by starting slowly when he was running over 6 furlongs. And as soon as he switched to 5 furlongs and came out the gates all right, in cheek pieces, he really progressive. And when he won at Goodwood, Glorious Goodwood, he had Twilight Calls behind. Now, I know Twilight Calls didn't get much of a run and was a bit unlucky, but that was a really good performance from When the Dealing's Done in a handicap. He's got much more to come. He ran okay in the Portland, where probably that's 5.5 furlongs, probably just stretched him. I think the Bear 5, a quick 5 on quick ground, it's going to be ideal for him, and it's easier for sprinters to step out of handicaps into group races than it is many other distances. So at 1,000,000 to 1, When the Dealing's Done, Roger Teal is a really top trainer who gets these horses to progress, like he did with Oxted, who's a Group 1 winner, and I think he's got another good sprinter on his hands when the dealing's done.
I liked him on that line through Twilight Calls, who's my selection. It'd be a very small stakes selection. I just think he'll improve this year. He just looked like a horse whose 4-year-old campaign. Twilight Suns really do improve like he did with their racing, and we know he likes this course and distance. He started the season really well. I think he can progress up into a group horse. There's not much juice in the price. I don't really mind the draw because I think he'll tuck in from 12 of 12, but it's not a hugely confident shout. Hands up. Steve, you're done. Charlie, who do you like?
Again, I thought this was a very open race, Tom, just as you said. So it's not a confident shout. I came down with Kadim. He ran okay the last twice in Dubai, and more interesting for me was the booking of William Buick. I think William Buick won on him the only time that he's partnered him, and keeping it short but sweet in an open race. I just thought with the horse, it's been running okay. Charlie Hills is going all right too, and having William Buick back on board might be enough to give Kadim that little bit extra that he needs to be back in the winners' enclosure in like I say, what looks an open and tight race because of that. There's plenty of these with chances.
Yeah, agree. DC.
My pick is Came for the Dark to get some redemption on last year. I thought he was very unlucky in this last year. He was flew home and just made a bit of interference, but was a bit blocked. Was only beaten the neck by Lazuli, but probably should have won. Turns up again here. He obviously handles the course, and he's only 3 pounds higher than that, which means nothing in this race. But he's I just think he's a solid selection. I could see him going very well for this as being a very open race, as the guy said.
Okay, well, not a huge amount of confidence behind the selections there, I think, but that's the nature of the race. Right. Before we move on to Sunday, I'm going to tell you about the Matchbook offer. It's the sign-up offer, and it's for new customers only. It's the £30 welcome offer, money back as a free bet if your first bet loses. Use the bonus code INSIGHTS30, INSIGHTS30. Place your first bet. If it loses, Matchbook will refund your stake as a free bet up to £30. The full terms and conditions are on the Matchbook website. 18 plus, be gamble aware. If you don't have a Matchbook account, it is well worth taking advantage of it. £30 welcome offer, money back as a free bet if your first bet loses. If it wins, happy days. On we go to the feature on Sunday, which is the Kipco 1000 Guineas. Prices are as follows. You've got Tenebrism, who heads the betting at 4.0, 6.5 Discoveries. Still don't know who rides the Aidan O'Brien horses. It's like Willie Mullins on over jumps. Tuesday is 7.0. Malavath is 8.0. Zelly 11.0. Wild Beauty 12.0. Mise en Scène 15, and then we get into the far bigger prices. Right. Charlie, first of all, you've got a win place shout. I think most of us are win place here.
Yeah, again, very, very open race. I mean, Aidan's obviously won 6 of the last 10, and not always with the first string if you're keen on Tuesday as such. I just thought, I kept, again, rewatching the race back, and I'm not saying that this filly is going to be the best of them long term, Tom, by any stretch of the imagination, but cachet for George Bowie, who I respect enormously, I thought was impressive in the Nelgwyn. I don't see any reason why she won't get the extra furlong. I mean, she ran very well in the Breeders' Cup over this trip. And whether she can win this race or not, I just can't see her running. I can't see her not running well, you know. And at 16-1, I just thought that she didn't really have a lot to prove. She's proven group performer. She's had a recent run. She was impressive in that. Trainer I massively respect. And like I say, I just thought 16-1 was way too big, and I kind of felt, not that George Bowie isn't a big name, but if she was trained by someone more fashionable, I just don't think she'd be 16-1. Is the honest answer.
I think he's a ridiculously good trainer.
Sorry, and and I shouldn't say not fashionable. He is fashionable. I just mean if he was trained by Charlie Appleby or Aidan O'Brien, I just don't see him being 16-1 in this race. Her being 16-1.
Completely take the point. I mean, I think he's not a sort of a one of the most fashionable trainers. I mean, he had second in an Oaks last year. I think he's outstanding. She's 17.0 with Team Matchbook. You have got Tuesday, who you mentioned in there, who's Jonesy's selection.
Yeah, I was going to make some bad gag about Tuesday, but I'll get straight to the point. But Tuesday, I was impressed with her, and she won the same Nace May. She was second last year to Discoveries, beating a short head on her debut. That was in June at the Curragh. And obviously Discoveries then went on and won the Group 1 Moorglare Stud Stakes later on in the season. So that was a good starting point. And this season, she came out and won the same Nace Maiden that her sister, Empress Josephine, won last year before winning the Irish Guineas. And Tuesday's got an incredible pedigree, as you would expect from a Coolmore horse. Also a sister to Minding, a Galileo. So the pedigree's there, the performances are there. And I just think, like Charlie said, Aidan O'Brien's won this a million times, but it's not always with his first string. And I'd say, although frustratingly, why can't they just decide who's going to ride what? They know who's going to ride what. Why don't they just say? It's just pathetic. Ryan Moore will probably ride Tenebrism, and someone else, maybe Frankie. Will he ride Tuesday?
I'd say almost certainly. I mean, Ryan has to really ride. One thing that doesn't happen is, Ryan doesn't ride the one that's not top in the betting, because that's quite. I'm almost certain.
And the one with Group 1 form. So yeah, but it didn't stop Frankie winning it last year on Aidan's other one, did it? So
no, I mean it didn't stop Donica winning the Guineas on Saxon Warrior when he wasn't in this year.
Oh, come on, they were desperate to get Donica a classic win.
True.
I'm going to jump about 8 foot at that point.
I'm going to jump in with my selection now, because it's a best bet selection for me, which is Mise en Scène. Del Mar didn't work out. She was drawn out of it. That was never really going to be her track. If you look back at the Fillies Mile, she ran, I think she emerged second best filly in the race. She was away from the two that finished first and second, or first and third. Obviously, the form's been well advertised with the likes of Cachet and Wild Beauty coming out and winning. And she ran on. They didn't want to run her in a trial because they didn't want to drop her back to 7, which I can see. It might be actually that she wants 10, but she absolutely flew up the hill. And I think, just being in behind a really strong pace in the middle, she's drawn 11, but she can get in the middle. It's not too bad at 14. I think she's far too big a price at 15.0. Win and place. There's no extra places here, Deasy, so we can't bet down to 4, can we?
We'll get you 4, yeah. We'll be always extra places, yeah. There could be 4 and 5.
I think that, yeah, 4 or 5. I think, if you're betting to 4, I'd be very interested in Mise en Scène. My other angle in the race is Zelly, purely because it's Andre Fabre, having given her a trial over an inadequate 7. Her last win came over the mile. I thought she should be a bit closer to Malabath in the betting. So I'll back her win and place as well. I just wanted to take on Tenebrism, and I'll probably place lay her. I genuinely don't see how she gets a mile. She might be too good. I don't know. She might well be the best filly in the race. I'm sure she'll get 7, but this is a mile. And Aidan's last 3 Cheveley Park winners, only one of them ended up in a Guineas, didn't stay. I just don't see how she gets a mile, Tenebrism. Dees.
Yeah, I was looking at the Fillies Mile as well for my pick. It's Wild Beauty, Charlie Appleby's horse. Finished 5th in that Fillies Mile. Just kind of faded out a small bit at the end of it. But she had been over to Canada 3 weeks before and over to Woodbine, and she'd had a good few runs now in the season. So I think she was entitled to be a bit tired at that stage. But it was still a good run. And again, she's a massive price. She's been out already this year. She's won over 7. She beat Jumley there a few weeks ago. She had her prep race. Like just looking at her pedigree, she should be a mile should suit her a lot more than 7. I think stepping up and triple suit her. And like you said, no, she's a nice price as well. But she's 15.5 as well or something. Was it 14? Yeah.
Just to flesh that out, it's I'm pretty sure they're running here because Inspiral came out.
Yeah.
Because they were thinking about going to France. Because they were a bit worried about the William Buick had said she didn't feel perfect on the track in the Fillies Mile, and I think they probably looked at Inspire and thought, I don't know. And now all of a sudden, Inspiral's out, and they've gone, all right, well let's roll the dice.
Yeah, I suppose mise en Scène did finish the Fillies Mile better than her, and I was very close to putting her up, but I think Wild Beauty could have a bit of class to her, and I like the fact that she's had a little prep run as well. So I stick with her as a win place bet.
I've only just realised as well, she's drawn 14 of 14. Charlie Appleby's horses are drawn 1 and 15 in the 2000 Guineas. He's got all the wings. Right. A half pointless bit of information for you. Let's go back in time, straight out the Steve Jones playbook. This is the 1 mile 6 Heritage Handicap, and prices are as follows. Top of the betting is Valley Forge, who is general 6.0 shot. Kemhan is 8.0, Dark Jedi 11.0, as is Revolver, Sarumi, Golden Flame 12.0, and Soapy Stevens 15.0. Very boringly, I'm kicking off with Golden Flame as a back to lay. This is his ground. Charlie and Mark Johnson, they go well around this track because it can suit horses on the speed. And I'm almost certain Golden Flame out of 1 will go forward and trade shorter in the run. It's probably a really boring way of trying to play it, but that's how I'm going to do it. Charlie.
Yeah. For me, the big piece of form with this race was Enemy's race at Musselburgh. And I mean, Enemy was was incredibly unlucky, in my opinion, at Ascot during the week. And Dark Jedi, Sarumi, Soapy Stevens, Blow Your Horn all ran in that race at Musselburgh. And it was a day that suited closers, and Dark Jedi finished off best of the rest of them. Tim Easterby's horse. Tim's also going really well now. They've been improving for racing. He's had 2 runs now already, this horse. And, you are completely right with what you're saying about this track suits front runners, which maybe isn't ideal for Dark Jedi. But looking through it, I thought there was a lot of pace in this race, and they could end up taking each other on and going a real strong gallop. And if that's the case, I think it plays into Dark Jedi's hands. And again, he's another selection that I was really sweet on. I thought the run at Musselburgh was great. He just bumped into one. Enemy could end up running in a Gold Cup, I would say. I mean, whether he can win one, but he could be a contender, and probably on the form of that, he had no chance at Musselburgh. Ran a super race, and he deserves a bit of compensation, and I think he's going to get it here at Newmarket, Tom.
Dees, you agree?
Yeah, exact same argument, just on the line through Enemy. Enemy was really good the other day. Dark Jedi was, as I said, he just ran into one. I thought his price would be bigger even down as a win place bet, but if he keeps shortening, it'll probably be win only. But happy to go with him in this. I think Tim used to be in Donald Fenton could win the Thurles Con Cup as well. I was going through that race for this pod and realised we're not covering it, but have a look at their horse in the Thurles Con Cup on Saturday.
Steve Jones?
Yeah, I totally agree with the pace. There's lots of it, the likes of Simon and the two Johnston horses, and there's a few more in there, Revolver, I think, that like to go forward. And the horse that needs this to be a strong test of stamina and a decent pace is Valley Forge, who I was massively impressed with last season in the Melrose, which is kind of like the Ebor for 3-year-olds at York's Ebor meeting. And then was behind Golden Flame when Golden Flame dominated at Haydock, and then the soft ground was no good to Valley Forge later on in October. So fast ground, strong pace, very progressive horse. Valley Forge is the winner.
Very, very confident. Love it. Hi, Peter. Peter's punters along to say Zelly is the lay of the whole week, just like Classical Dream. I love it. Top stuff on Twitter, Peter, with you saying about Classical Dream and how that might not have been the right way to approach it. There you are. Thoroughly enjoyed your engagement all week. Enjoy Punchestown today. We move on to the Pretty Polly. I haven't got a bet in this. I thought it was too tough, so I'm happy to sit back and watch. Top of the betting is the usual suspects: John and Lady Gosler, Frankie Dettori, Crenell, who is 4.0. Half a point bigger is With the Moonlight for William Buick and Charlie Appleby. Peripatetic is 7.0. Set Horizon 9.0. Then into the double figures. I'm very much sitting it out. DC, straight back at you. How confident are you about this one?
Pretty confident. The money seems to be coming from her. John and Teddy are starting to hit top gear. He usually runs it. He honestly has a good one for this. So I just kept it simple and went for the fav. Crenell.
Steve?
Yeah, I agree. If I can find the mute button. Really well bred. I think Crenell is a niece of Logician, who looked very good a few years ago, won the St. Ledger. So stepping up to 1 mile and 2 from a mile is going to suit. And I just think that she might just be too good. She's already won on the Rowley Mile in her maiden last time at the Craven meeting, when she beat Fontaine, who'd already had a fair bit of experience, and the pair of them were 9 or 10 lengths clear. So I thought that was a really good way to break your duck. And I think, she's like I say, she's going to appreciate the extra distance, and she'll probably win.
And Charlie Post.
Yeah, I mean, the Gosden horses, he's won 5 of the last 10 of this, but there was a line through Fontaine that Kevin Ryan trains that Crenell and Peripatetic, is that right? Something like that anyway, have both beaten her, granted 6 months apart. And Peripatetic is Ulysses out of a Leofan mare. She's sort of bred to very much appreciate this longer distance, this extra couple of furlongs. And it was just a thing purely at the prices, Tom. One's 13-8 and the other's 11-2. And so I came down that side, Peripatetic. But it's not like a big fancy. It was more just that, like I say, one is nearing even money and the other's sort of, you're getting 11-2, 5 to 1.
Yeah. Yeah, 7.0 here, so against those right at the top of the betting. But it is a difficult little heat. The Dahlia Stakes, an interesting race at 3 o'clock. We're going to do best lays and best bets after this. The Dahlia has this as the betting goes. Vildegras is 3.0. Dream Loper is 5.0. Abeira is 5.0. Lilac Road is also 5.0 up against Vildegras again. Climate is 15.0. Bigger Price is the final pair. Okay, so a couple of shouts for Vildegras from Steve and Charlie. Steve, first of all.
Yeah, really likeable horse, Vildegras, who I think is well up to this sort of level. Won a listed race at Yarmouth last year, and then took another step forward in won a Group 3 on the Rowley Mile. That was over a mile in 2, but I don't think she's got any problem dropping back to a mile in 1. And I think it's interesting, Sir Michael Stout, you don't generally associate him these days with having his horses forward, but he's had 5 winners already in April, and they've all been making their seasonal return. So they clearly are quite forward. And if that's the case with Vildegras, then she will be quite hard to beat. She
looked really good here last year, I thought. Charlie?
Yeah, when winning the Pride Stakes, I think, and then had a couple of these rivals in behind. 4-year-old Sir Michael Stout, he's a master at improving these horses over time. And like Steve said, he's absolutely flying at the moment. Seems to have taken a different approach with this early season. And yeah, again, confident selection for me.
I just thought of the prices. She should be favourite. Just thought Lilac Road had a slightly better chance of reversing the form than the market's given her at sort of 2.5 times the price. So I'd be backing her just small in the win. I think she wants slightly better ground than it was at Newmarket, whereas Vildegras, she's gone close on quick, but she's got a tiny bit more knee anyway than Lilac Road. So I thought with the ground, how it's likely to be, back a furlong in trip, I'd chance Lilac Road to get the better if I'd rather back her at the prices, but I'm not against Vildegras by any stretch. DC?
I am a bit against Vildegras because she started off the season fairly poorly last year. Her first 2 runs weren't great at all, and they gave her a break, and she came back later in the season and was much improved. Although I agree with what you say about Michael Stout is flying at the moment. I don't think about the French horse, so the one I went for was Dream Loper, who finished off the season she beaten 3.5 lengths in the Sun Chariot, but she was within a length of Mother, or with a half length of Mother Earth and that. She's pretty consistent. She ran at the top level all last year. Beat Lights On there at Ascot there last year, who has come out and franked that form. I think she's a nice enough price for this. You said she's 5.0. I'm happy enough to have a go with her.
Okay, that's our 8 races done. Best lays now. We're getting more and more lays coming your way. We're really embracing this. So my lay of the 2 days, as I said, I'm going to place lay Tenebrism. Might be a terrible shout. She might be the best in the race, but I think that there has to be an angle there that she won at Cheveley Park. She does look as though 7 will be fine. I think she's worth taking on to get a mile, and I'll place lay her. I'm not sure exactly what price she'll be. Should be a shade of odds on, certainly. So I think that's fair enough. Steve, you're going jumping for your lay.
Yeah, lay of the whole week at Punchestown. Epatants just had some hard race. I know she's in against other mares, but I wouldn't be at all surprised to see her run below par, having run so well in the Champion Hurdle, and then Aintree, having had a couple of hard races in quick succession. Can she do it again? I don't want to be with her at about 2.0 or 2.1 to do that, so I'm going to take her on. Okay,
Charlie, your lay.
I'm going to Goodwood, Tom, and Primo Vecchio of Ed Walker's. He's sort of started the season slowly, and she has a couple of what potentially could be above average 3-year-olds in against Zambak, especially a Roger Varians, and even a 4-year-old Mrs. Fitzherbert, Huey Morrison's, that I think can really serve it up to her. And I think she's just over 3.0, I think, and at that sort of price, I'd be willing to take her on.
Okay, Prima Vecchio of Ed Walker. Dees?
My best lay is to place lay Astro King in the Thurscon Cup for 4 places. Now, he's currently favoured at about 5.5, so you should be looking at a place price of about 2.5 or less. I think there could be at least 4 or 5 horses in this that are better handicapped than him. So place lay Astro King at 2.5 or less in the Toscan Cup.
Okay, well, I've got you there, Dees. How do I pronounce the name of this horse in the opener at Punchestown?
Which one?
So the 340 at Punchestown today, the favourite.
Seconds, I'm going to bring it up here now.
How on earth do I say this? And I'm going to give it a go. And Drocard Gorm.
Spot on.
Androhad Gorham means the Blue Bridge. Androhad Gorham.
Androhad Gorm. It means the Blue Bridge. I'm going to say that as if I know it. Thank you for my research. Excellent.
Androhad Gorham, yeah.
Best bets. Not Androhad Gorm. I don't know the form. Best bets for Saturday or Sunday. Steve, your best bet.
I'm going to say on Sunday, Valley Forge in the Mile and 6 handicap.
Charlie, your best bet. You pretty much already said it.
Yeah, Ville de Grace, Smoker Stout, improving 4-year-old trainer flying.
DC, your best bet.
My best bet is Tactical in the 150 Newmarket on Saturday.
My best bet is Mise en Scène in the 1,000 guineas, about 15.0. Very much win and place, probably playing down to 4 places. Mise en Scène, I think, is too big a price. Well done. We did it. Good stuff. Enjoy the rest of the Punchestown Festival. Enjoy Saturday and Sunday's action. Insights post will be up a little bit later on today. Our producer will be taking time out from his Guinness session at Punchestown to upload that, no doubt. DC, Jonesy, Charlie, thanks ever so much. And thanks for everyone watching and listening. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.